One of the first things that happened in the house. So we lived in a pretty big house. It had an acre of land. It was in the middle of Fort Myers, Florida. Acre of land in the middle of the city. And so this house actually had like a carriage pull up, like where you could pull a carriage up and step out into, these French doors that opened up. And then there was like a servant's quarters out back. I mean, this was an old house, like pretty big too. Dad would always have people come over from church and stuff. And so this one night, we had a bunch of people over, close friends, and basically one of our favorite things to do was to play haunted house in a haunted house, but at this point, not a whole lot nothing had really happened. All right. Nothing had really happened that would make us feel like, we shouldn't be doing this or, whatever. So I think that's kind of important to understand, but, and we were detailed with it. We would my parents would be down there entertaining guests. And so we would go upstairs, and there's a lot of rooms upstairs, including an attic, which we never went in because we were scared to death of the attic. But, so we would have someone sit at the bottom of the steps. And so you had a tour guide, and then you would have, we went to Disney all the time, and we went through the Haunted Mansion, and we loved it. So that's kind of where we drew the inspiration from. So we would have a tour guide, and then we'd have the person on the tour. And so they would make up a story for each room, like, oh, so-and-so died in this room, blah, 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 just make up a whole story for each and every room. So this one particular night, there was me, my brother, my sister, her friend, and another friend from church. So we are playing haunted house, and I remember that night I was in my sister's room. All the lights are out because you're just kind of waiting for your cue to do your scary thing, whatever you had planned for that room. And so I'm in my sister's room, I'm in the closet, and I'm just sitting there, and I don't know how else to describe it other than it was just say that I all of a sudden felt like I wasn't alone. Like someone was in that closet with me. Obviously, there was no one in there with me. I know that, but that doesn't change the fact that I felt like something was in there with me. And I just had this growing unease. And so I sat there as long as I could, and I finally just gave up. Well, come to find out, everyone else had given up too. They stopped playing. They had all kind of congregated out in the main hall, and I came out of my sister's room saying, I can't do this, and they would already quit. And they said, well, what's wrong? And I said, well, I don't really know. I said, but I felt like I just feel really uneasy. I feel kind of scared. I feel like someone was in there with me. They all felt the same thing, which is why collectively everyone kind of quit. Thanks for telling me. So we decide we're going to go sit in Dad's room, Mom and Dad's room, and listen to Dad's stereo, which we were never supposed to touch. But as we're walking there, my brother and I's bedroom is kind of off to our right. My parents' room was directly across the hallway from us. And so as we're walking by our bedroom, the light in the room, it turned on by itself. And it was one of those old lamps, where you got to go up to, and it was kind of attached to the wall. So you had to go up and push that little black button that would turn it on. This is an old lamp. And thought that's really weird. And we even heard the little click from that little button. So we go in there. We're thinking, what was that? We turn it off and turn it on a couple times. And that was weird. Whatever, we didn't really, we had no reason to be fearful of a light turning on or, whatever, so we go into Dad's room and we're listening to the stereo. Now, this is one of those old stereos, he had these huge speakers, man. They were just ginormous. But we were not supposed to be listening to Dad's stereo, so we kept it turned down. But it was one of those old stereos, that had a little switch on it, like an on and off for a light switch, and then it had one of the volume knob buttons. And So we turned it on as low as go, or listened to a radio station or whatever. We listened to it for a while, and then we kind of got bored. So we turned the volume all the way back down because, cover our tracks. And then we turned the radio off. And we went downstairs. I don't know, we were down there for probably the next 30 minutes, just with everyone. And then the next thing you know, Dad's stereo turned on at full volume. I mean, these speakers were huge, so it was kind of shaking everything. And Dad immediately blamed us. What were you guys doing in my room? We're like, we weren't in there. And then, we finally said, okay, we were in there, but we turned everything off. It wasn't us. We haven't been up there for 30 minutes or, whatever, however much time it elapsed. And so he immediately gets another friend from church, and they got a couple, they got their firearms, and they kind of swept the house. Dad kind of took the dog with them, and they swept the entire house, all the way up to the attic. Nothing. Nobody. So we were a little freaked out. I think my dad had a hard time admitting, I think even to this day, we'll still try to explain stuff away. There's no way that he didn't experience things that he just couldn't explain. I think that he just had a hard time accepting the fact that those things happened. So that was the first experience that we had in the house. I know that's not really that scary, but when you're a little kid, that's a little freaky, So